Lakers, who are scrambling to reshape the Anthony Davis trade in order to create $32 million in salary cap space, which would give them the ability to sign a max free agent. In order to do it, they might have to get rid of 3 of the remaining 4 players on their roster. Woj with us earlier this morning on Get Up.
Well, the Lakers have been calling around the league with a couple of those minimum contracts they still have on the books, including Mo Wagner, who was their #1 pick last year, to try to, when July 6 comes, to have more teams involved in this Anthony Davis trade, to be able to turn what right now is that 23 million plus number into around 32 million in cap space on July 6th when the free agent moratorium ends.
All right, so Zach Lowe is here. You know him from the Low Post podcast, and obviously I know there's nothing you love more than talking about the Lakers. That is.
Well, now we got it. Now they've earned it. We got to talk about them now.
So, whatever amount of money they get, what should they be doing with it? What do they need to put around LeBron and AD? People like me will be talking about, oh, they got to get this superstar free agent, that superstar free agent. What should they actually do with that money?
I thought you were just going to say people like you, because they just need human basketball players who can put them. They have no players. But honestly, it's actually an interesting debate. The max star is the sexy thing to go get. But if your roster is 3 max guys, a bunch of minimum guys, and you have no draft picks, it's really hard to tweak your roster. If you took that max slot and made it 3 good players with $10 to $12 million salaries, you have a little more trade flexibility. But this is the Lakers. They're going to go for a star. That's what they do.
What do you think?
I think they already have their superstars. 2 of the top 5 players in the league, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And I have to continue to stress, when we have this conversation, please include Kyle Kuzma. He's shown to be the better prospect of the guys they traded already. Lonzo Ball ended the year in street clothes. Brandon Ingram is coming back from blood clots. Okay, they kept the best guy that they took late in the first round. The other guys went in the lottery. One of the guys Magic said was gonna hang his jersey up in the rafters, and he got moved.
I'm going to continue to beat this drum, and Zach, I actually agree with what you're saying. So what I'm going to say is actually arguing against what I understand to be logic. But I continue to see a path, Jay Will, and I'm looking right at you.
Are you going to
for our mutual friend, Mr. Irving, to wind up in Los Angeles, and here's how, okay? If KD doesn't want to go with him to Brooklyn for whatever reason, I can't see the Nets just deciding we're going to take all this money, we're going to give it to Kyrie, and that's it. We're going to build around him for the future, which means if that option isn't there and he's ghosting Boston, which is everything that I'm hearing, he's not even returning the phone calls or the texts of the Celtics, maybe the best option for him will wind up being going back there. And sometimes you don't know what's best for you until it actually falls in your lap and you have nothing better to do.
I just feel like you and I, we fight over this every single day, Greeny. I know you die on this hill every single day. The narrative will never be for Kyrie Irving that he plays and wins a championship in Cleveland, then goes to Boston, gets hurt. This team gets to the Eastern Conference Finals. The next year, they don't have a great year. Then he goes back to LeBron James because that's the only way Kyrie Irving can win. He's never, that's not the way Kyrie Irving's built.
Then he isn't going to win. I mean, at that point, you either going to win or you're not going to win.
I don't know about that.
He's going to win in Brooklyn?
He could potentially win one with Kevin Durant if Kevin Durant comes to Brooklyn.
Zach Lowe, help me.
I don't see him going to the Lakers. I mean, who knows with him? But he wasn't happy being the second best player on the team, right? He asked out of Cleveland. Then he wasn't happy being the best player on the team in Boston. Is he going to be happy being the 3rd best player on the team with the Lakers? I just don't see that. It doesn't. The pattern does not suggest he would do that.
That's the real issue, is who's going to go be the 3rd fiddle with the Lakers. And look, people seem to forget that the Lakers were a playoff team before LeBron James got hurt. And they were going to be in the playoffs and contend. They weren't going to contend for the championship, but they were going to contend in the playoffs. And so you put Anthony Davis, I was asking some people this. If you had the opportunity to take Zion Williamson or Anthony Davis right now, who would you take?
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis. It's not even a discussion point. He's one of the very best players in the league. LeBron and Anthony Davis alone give the Lakers a chance, with Golden State being injured, give them a chance to win the West. So whoever they put around him, I just don't see taking all that money and putting it on one player.
And Greeny, I'll say this too. I think it's pivotal that you get the right players around this team. This is still a 1-year audition for the Lakers for Anthony Davis. Like, and people don't say this, if LeBron James were to get hurt or re-injure himself, and then AD doesn't get to where they think they can go, and then maybe something happens to LeBron long term, they don't have the draft picks to say, is this the best location for me to be long term either?
The question is, what players complement LeBron and Anthony Davis? Not what star can they get. Who complements them and makes that team better?
So I think there are degrees, right? Like, if you can get Kawhi Leonard, which to me seems unlikely, then the whole discussion goes out the window and you get Kawhi Leonard. Then there's a drop-off, and it's Kemba Walker and Kyrie Irving. I think if those are the guys you're discussing, then you need to think seriously about, can we spread this around to 3 Danny Green, J.J. Redick, whoever types that really complement. You run a pick and roll with LeBron and AD and 3 shooters, you're done. There's nothing you can do about that.
Well, I have 2 points for this. One, LeBron can't have every all-NBA performer on the Lakers. At some point, you got to play against some of the top players, okay? For this media thing that we're going to put every star player that's a free agent on the Lakers, they don't fit. I don't think playing with Kyrie or Kemba works with LeBron at this point of his career because he's going to have the ball. Those 2 guys ain't about to be spotting up in the corner watching Anthony Davis and LeBron do a pick and roll. And again, I want to say this. They have their 3rd player. His name is Kyle Kuzma. He just is on a rookie deal. They need to have a guy like Danny Green and another guy like Patrick Beverly. That's their starting 5 for me. Go out and win with that.
That said, when LeBron has won big, he's always had a second really good ball handler to take the load off of him so he can rest a little bit on the floor, someone who can lead the offense when he's on the bench. I don't know who. I think that's a necessity for them to really win big, and I don't know who that player is.
Let me throw a different curveball at you here. There was a time when it felt like every player in the NBA was dying to play with LeBron James because he is an unselfish superstar. He's a superstar who is willing to distribute the ball. He is more Magic than he is Michael. It feels like that has changed. Maybe that's just in my head, but it feels like that has changed. Has it? It feels to me like a lot of the other stars in the league right now are not dying in the way Dwayne Wade once was and Chris Bosh once was to team up with LeBron James.
Seems that way. I mean, but they just got Anthony Davis, and they might get another one, so that narrative could flip on its head. But certainly in the last 2 years, you've heard a lot of noise of, it's never I'm never the reason as star number 2 that we win, and I'm always the reason that we lose if I'm playing with LeBron. That's the burden of playing with the best guy, though.
And what was the discussion point when LeBron went to L.A.? It was he's going from the East, where he's going to be in the finals every year, to the West, where it's going to be a tough climb just to get out of the Western Conference Finals and get to the finals. It's a totally different deal. So having players go where they know they're going to play in the finals in the East to the West is a little bit of a different dynamic.
And here's the distinction I want to make for you. I don't believe that narrative. He just got Anthony Davis to throw away for public consumption everything he created with the Pelicans to demand a trade during the middle of the season when he wasn't a free agent. That's wanting to go play with LeBron, no doubt. Number 2, the other top-tier free agents already have championships. So they don't need to go run with LeBron James, Kawhi, KD, Clay, Kyrie in order to accomplish that. They've already done it.
Fair.
Maybe some of that narrative with the Lakers has had a little more to do with the Lakers' dysfunction than LeBron anyway. Let's get more into the Celtics because there was news yesterday with Woj being busy. Al Horford not exercising his $30.1 million option for next season. Sources say Horford and the Celtics do not believe they can agree on a new deal and that Horford prepared to enter free agency to find a 3 or 4 year contract elsewhere. On the low post, Zach, you had a great take on all of this. What's gone wrong with the Celtics? And then even further, what should they do now?
I mean, obviously the last year has been a total disaster for the Celtics. They had all of their eggs in the Anthony Davis basket. Kyrie was supposed to be the thing that convinced Anthony Davis to stay. It all fell apart for reasons that are still kind of unclear. But I would all of that said, the Horford thing to me is not the disaster it's being made out to be. Once all the other dominoes have fallen this way, I actually think this is the appropriate decision for Boston. Just so you know, 4 years, it doesn't fit our timetable anymore. We can now be a team that has $20 to $25 to $30 million in cap space that gives us a lot of trade optionality. Like, let's just chill and recalibrate rather than sort of make a deal that doesn't make sense.
But how long have they been recalibrating? That's my problem. The Celtics have been the team. They've been like, oh, next year they're going to be the team to beat for so long now, and that year never came.
That's a different question, and the question of what is the missed opportunity that they're going to regret to really beef this team up to win the championship this past season. And I think if you look back at all the deals they didn't make, Kawhi is going to be the one they look back on and say, that was maybe the time we should have put more chips on the table. But all that, leading to the Horford stuff, all that's under the bridge now. I'm just talking about the Horford situation. To me, is not the disaster it's being made out to be.
This is all about Kyrie. I mean, Kyrie went there to be a leader and to be the lead dog and take them to a championship. And there's a difference between being in charge and being a leader. Now, he was in charge with the ball, but he wasn't a leader for Boston. And that's what's blown this up and made this look this way. Al Horford leaving makes perfect sense. I mean, he's aging. You can go out into the open market and get way more money than if you stay there. So why not go into the open market? He can always go. He's not going to go back, but he can always go back. He's not going to.
And wait, Greeny, we've done a lot of TV together. Wasn't it you this year that said multiple times this team is better without Kyrie
Yes,
Irving?
absolutely.
All right, so they're in a position to go what you said. So if you have Gordon Hayward, Jalen Brown, let's not forget how Jason Tatum balled out last year, even though this year was sort of a drop off. Maybe you're able to get a Terry Rozier. Maybe you're not winning a championship, but you're still right there competing with those assets.
No, I'm not accepting maybe you're not winning a championship. Winning the championship was supposed to be the next step. The logical next step last year was not Toronto as the team that is going to succeed LeBron James in the Eastern Conference. It was Boston. You were sitting right here and picked them to win the championship, and I agreed with you. I was completely on your side. I think that look, Danny Ainge gets a lot of credit. He has generally managed that team very well. But he misplayed this one. He held on believing he was going to get Anthony Davis all the way through, and he never was going to. And that fact, I think, eluding him has left them where they are right now, which is they've been surpassed by a bunch of teams in the East.
But you know what you can't do in the East is panic. Look at all of the top teams. Toronto, Kawhi's a free agent. You don't know what's going to happen with him. Philadelphia, you don't know what's going to happen with Butler or Tobias Harris. There's a lot of pieces that still need to get moved around to decide who's really going to be the favorite in that
If
conference.
only I had someone like Zach Lowe sitting here to ask that question to. Oh, I have Zach Lowe sitting here to ask that question to. What's Kawhi going to do?
I mean, I think to me, he's betrayed nothing, right? And you talk to people who have talked to his people, like, look, I'm not, Uncle Dennis doesn't have my number. I'm not talking to Uncle Dennis. So I'm not plugged into his camp. But you talk to people who are. I don't think he's betrayed anything to anyone. But I've said all year long, months ago, that the chances of him staying in Toronto are higher than the it's a done deal to the Clippers narrative that was out there. Now, I don't know what the chances are. They just won the championship. But I think I haven't heard another team that's credible other than Raptors and Clippers. So I think it's a toss-up, and we're all going to find out together.
And then the other one, of course, is Kevin Durant, who we're going to sit and wait a year at least to see back again, but he's going to sign somewhere at huge money. Where is that likely to be?
I think we're all still shell-shocked by what happened in the finals, honestly. And I'm trying to digest, like, what does that injury mean for him? I think it maybe increases the chances a little bit that he stays and just rehabs there. I think they probably feel duty-bound to some degree to offer him the 5-year max because of what happened and also because he's Kevin Durant. You know, and the Knicks have been out there all year, and now there's more options on the table, I think.
Chances he stays there, as Zach just mentioned.
Feasible to rehab for a year, to sign for that type of money.
I mean, if you're the Warriors and that happened on your watch, and it's Kevin Durant who, when healthy, if he ever is that player again, is a top 5 player in the league, don't you feel like we still have to offer him the max? We still have to offer him 5 years max?
Listen, someone correct me if I'm wrong. Everything I have heard suggests that everyone will still be willing to offer him the max. The Warriors will, and all the other teams who can't offer him as much as they can will still put the 4 years and whatever it is, 160 on the table that they're able to put on the table.
Here's a parallel to this year's NBA draft. We feel like it really, quote unquote, won't start till number 4 because the first 3 are locks.
Right.
That's the same thing that's going to happen with this year's free agency. The music ain't going to stop until those 3 guys go off the board, KD, Kawhi, and Kyrie. Then when that happens, everybody now gets a chance to fall in place and make their choices.
But the difference here is we don't know where they're going.
And I will say this about Kevin Durant. I really can't harp on this enough. Him going back to New York to see his own doctor as opposed to traveling with the Golden State Warriors team to go back and see it, I think was very eye-opening. And I think there's an element of trust that really needs to be worked on there for that deal to actually happen for him to go back there.
All right, so you mentioned the draft. Why don't we jump to that? Because we have Bilas here, and there's a lot to do because it's tomorrow night, the NBA draft, 1 day away, and a lot of intrigue remains. The changes at the top do not seem to be coming. Zion Williamson, overwhelmingly likely to go number 1. Ja Morant, overwhelmingly likely to go number 2. But all of a sudden, R.J. Barrett no longer feels like as much of a lock at number 3. Darius Garland is scheduled to hold a last-minute workout with the Knicks today. Could there be a shakeup at what we have thought for the longest time was 1, 2, 3 locked in? All eyes, of course, already on the Pelicans with the first overall pick, but after acquiring the rights to number 4 in the Anthony Davis deal, is New Orleans looking to make another trade? A team that's looking to move up is the Hawks, who currently own the 8th and 10th picks, but the Knicks reportedly rejected Atlanta's offer for number 3 overall on Tuesday. So Jay Bilas is here with us in studio. Again, you'll be in our main set tomorrow night coverage of the draft, and no one knows all these guys better than you do. I want to start with Zion, not only because of his extraordinary star power, but he's going to walk into a very different situation than most number 1 overall picks do. Most of the time, those guys walk into terrible teams, and they're just building around this guy. This team, because of the unique circumstance of the Anthony Davis trade, if they flip that number 4 overall pick for someone like Bradley Beal, he could be walking into a half-decent team. So my question to you is, what can he do on the next level the day he gets there?
He can be a dominant transition scorer. He is an excellent defender. I think he has to improve some in his defense, especially his off-the-ball defense, but he just makes plays. He is a playmaker. And at his size, his explosiveness, how nimble he is with his feet, the way he can score, it's absurd. I mean, look, we didn't make this up. And all the eyeballs that were on him this year, the ratings going through the roof, were not because we ran some promos that said, watch this guy. People saw him and they couldn't believe how good he was. When I went to Canada and watched Duke play over the summer in that foreign tour they took, look, I had seen Zion Williamson in high school playing around all these little kids, and I thought, man, he's really good. I'd seen all the Instagram stuff, and man, that unbelievable dunks. Then you saw him against men, and you're like, man, there's never been anybody like this to play basketball, ever. Now, he's not the best player I've ever seen. He's not. But I've never seen anybody like him on a basketball floor. With that size and explosiveness, his second, third jump, just the stuff he does. That one play he had against Virginia where he blocked a shot in the corner by DeAndre Hunter. Now, when I was watching that live, I go, my God, he got there from the middle of the lane. Well, I went back and watched the tape. He got there from the opposite wing. He was guarding a screening action on the opposite wing. And I was like, well, how did I miss that? And then I go, I know, because nobody's ever done that before. That's how I missed it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And look, people go, okay, he can't shoot it and all that stuff. He's got to become a better shooter. He will. But the stuff that he can do, very few players can do.
Greeny, I think he could be a 20 and 12 guy right out of the gate. Because first off, Ben Wallace said something to me that really changed my perspective on everything my first year in the league. He was like, Jay, if I just get 3 rebounds a quarter, I mean, with 12 rebounds, if Zion, one of the best skills that he has on top of his athletic ability is his effort, man. It is relentless. He just keeps coming at you. If you get a couple of putback dunks, you maybe knock down a 3, and playing with Lonzo Ball, playing with the Drew Holiday, or if they do draft Darius Garland, if they do make a trade, you play with guys who are playmakers, he's going to get easy points and easy rebounds.
That's a great point. Never takes a play out.
Absolutely.
Never.
His effort is there. And also, I think him landing with the Pelicans was the best thing that could have happened for him. In the media, of course, we wanted him in the large market and to be on the big quote-unquote stage. But for him to kind of play under the radar in New Orleans, to play with a team that just made the playoffs a couple of years, and how about this? To slide into a spot that Julius Randle just thrived in. Another left-handed player that was kind of looking for a position, ended up scoring big, opting out of his contract. Now you bring in Zion, and I guarantee you, Alvin Gentry, another good thing for Zion, a veteran coach that understands how to nurture him and keep expectations off of him, is going to now put him in a lot of the actions that they just used Julius Randle.
And uncommon maturity. Like, he's not going to go into that locker room and separate himself or act like he's the biggest deal. He defers to his teammates in that regard. He's a really good young man that is not going to cause any issues that you've seen with other players.
I don't think we give him enough credit for that, actually, because so much is about his game, which is understandable. I understand there are some variables here, but are the Pelicans a playoff team next year?
No, not in the West.
How about if they get Bradley Beal? If they flip the 4th pick in the draft into Bradley Beal?
Yes, I would believe so.
I think so, too. I do. I think that the Pelicans' chance to be good. And the only thing you said that I disagree with, Jalen Rose, I agree with every word, except when you said off the radar. Zion is the radar. The radar goes wherever Zion
No,
Williamson
that
goes.
is not true.
You don't think he's going to be on TV every night?
Hey, Rose,
You're not gonna be on
we will
TV?
max
put him
out.
on TV.
So y'all
He will max out on the national TV appearance.
So y'all gonna act like Zion playing with the Pelicans is the same as if he was playing at MSG?
No, it's
No.
not the
we-
same.
Oh, no, that's what
That's
I'm
a
saying.
different
I'm
comparison,
saying the
though, J.
coverage
Rose.
of Zion, if he played in MSG, will be remarkably different than him playing with the Pelicans. We would be at every one of his games if he was at MSG. We're only gonna be every other game, not he's with the Pelicans.
Fair enough. All right, we have a lot still to do here. The draft is tomorrow night. Zion, Morant, RJ. Beyond the top 3 picks, who will be the best NBA player? We will do Answer the Question NBA Draft Edition with Jay Bilas as we continue. And in less than 2 weeks, Kawhi Leonard will face a huge decision. How would a move to LA for the NBA Finals MVP impact the rest of the league? You got questions? We got answers. Get up on ESPN.